if you're tired of it, don't worry. I promise this will be the last video I do on the subject. It was so hilarious. I felt I wanted to share it with you so you can get a good chuckle as well, because on the heels of Jake Paul taking his first L against Tommy Fury, social media chimed in and social media claims that Jake Paul got robbed. So we're going to do some analysis about this alleged robbery and what was stated. And the reason is the same. And there's a fallacy, and it makes it clear about how many casuals that Jake Paul brought to this event. These are people that don't understand the business and don't understand the sport. They're just casual people that don't watch it, or they're people who just have it in their mind. They want to feel like it's a Pyrrhic victory. If you don't know Pyrrhic victory, I do encourage you to check out turn on the closed captions and go and do a search about Pyrrhic victories. But a Pyrrhic victory is where it's kind of a feel-good thing, but you really didn't win. You felt like you won, but you really didn't win. You did something that gave you a rah-rah for a little bit of a minute, but you lost so much en route to that win that it was kind of moot. That's what people are feeling. Jake Paul lost this fight. Jake Paul lost the fight, I argue, because of strategy. It wasn't because of skill, because skill-wise, I saw them equal, and that's bad because Tommy Fury has more amateur experience. I saw skill as roughly equal. I saw that he basically outsmarted the guy, is what it was. Ring IQ was much higher for Tommy versus Jake. Jake had moments, but I think Jake blew his load too early. He tried to go for that knockout shot way too early and didn't do what he needed to do, which is preserve, wait for the right shot, let the knockout come to him, which you're told by trainers. He didn't do that. So Tommy knew what he was doing is, you know what? I see your punches coming from a mile away. I know you're going to try to hit me with a knockout shot. I know you don't have a really effective jab. I know your footwork sucks. And so Tommy just exploited all this stuff. And there was just one moment of the fight that Tommy made a mistake where he got dropped. It is this moment where social media claims that because Jake Paul got the knockdown, that somehow that gives the win. Here's where people get it wrong. But first, I want to just put some visuals up there. So I'm going to give you a couple of these tweets so that you can go and shame these people if you want to. But I figured I'd add a little bit of context to what's going on here. Once again, this is all on Twitter. So if you don't use Twitter, kudos to you. But you can still go and just look at it if you want. But on Twitter, user Devin Bush fan says, quote, I don't know how Tommy Fury got knocked down like this, but still won the fight. I'm not a Jake Paul fan, but I don't agree with the judge's decision. User According to Boxing, who apparently has some sort of a site, says, quote, breaking. Jake Paul gets robbed after dropping Tommy the Tosser Fury via jab in the 8th round. And then Barstool Sports, who's a very well-known site, they basically gave the outcome and the announcement, split decision, raised hands. So check that out if you want to see the footage of this. And Tommy, who prior to the fight said he wasn't going to jump for joy after this announcement. But in response to this, user Marley Boy says, quote, they robbed Jake Paul. It was rigged. User Sean Wilkinson says, quote, Jake Paul was robbed. User Step Back ACH1 says, quote, I don't care that he got robbed. I need Jake Paul to hold that L close and tight. Here's what you all don't understand, not you listening, but these jokers don't understand. I have a saying. If it's truly a close fight, as in truly a close fight, and there's one knockdown, I'm likely to give it to the person who scored the knockdown. That's assuming it was truly a close fight. It was a split decision, but it was only a split decision because of the knockdown, meaning that without the knockdown, it would have been a wider win for Fury because Fury was more dominant in the fight. So no, the knockdown does not just wash 3 rounds off the books. Unfortunately, Jake Paul was so far behind. He needed roughly 2 of those just to be able to break it even. Let's be honest. He would have to have gotten multiple knockdowns in multiple rounds. He would have had to win more rounds decisively. None of that happened. There were rounds where, points are taken off that hurt Jake Paul because when he got a point taken off, he had already fallen behind. When Fury gets a point taken off, by that point, Fury had already banked rounds in the books. The knockdown, all that did was lessen a little bit the margin of win for Tommy Fury, but it wasn't going to give Jake Paul a win to have just one knockdown. And I watched the knockdown. It was not a knockdown. It was actually a very quick jab that Jake landed that unfortunately Tommy didn't see coming. No problem. But Jake he couldn't step on the gas. He was already gassed out, no pun intended, by that point. He couldn't capitalize. If Jake had gotten more than just the one knockdown, a case could be made. But no, let's be honest here. What these people are likely resonating with is the fact that Tommy was mostly fighting very defensively post past round 2, let's say. He wasn't aggressive like he initially started out. He started out really aggressive. He kind of backed off and went boxing smart. That's what he's supposed to do as a boxer. He's not supposed to be overly aggressive. If we're going to say that because Jake Paul was the aggressor and we're going to bank him rounds, we have to also look at whether that aggression was effective aggression. By and large, Jake Paul's aggression was not effective because Jake Paul was telegraphing shots. Jake Paul was smothering his own work. Jake Paul's punches were seen a mile away. Jake Paul was winded roughly round 5. No, Jake Paul easily lost the fight. The only way he could have changed that outcome is to either have won more rounds, meaning his strategy was jacked up, like I said, or he had to score another knockdown to add more points, or Fury had to get another point taken off. What you saw was Jake Paul got soundly outboxed. He happened to score a knockdown, which Fury should not have got knocked down off of. The point is he left his foot off the gas, but the point is he got dropped. Okay, but Fury, Jake Paul had to do more. Fury was the significantly better boxer. And if you can't recognize this, the sport's not for you. There's nothing wrong with this. Some people don't appreciate the sweet science of what it's supposed to be. Tommy Fury, he's not good at the sweet science. I argue he wasn't really significantly better than Jake Paul at the sweet science. What you saw, Jake Paul did enough of what he can do right now. He has work to do if he's going to continue it, really around strategy. It's not even like, let's say, endurance, stamina. To me, because both of them were really twitchy and jittery, both of them were on edge, both of them were just kind of jittery. They expended a lot of energy. Jake was expending a lot of energy with his throwing. A lot of these are really about strategy and being in the gym, learning how to do these things, that not burning unnecessary energy, right? Preserving yourself because you got to go 8. It feels like Jake was never trained to go 8. He was trained to get the guy out of there as quick as possible. That was evident in his performance. That's fine. And with Tommy Fury, that might have worked, except that Tommy Fury, they switched the strategy on him and said, we need to fight this guy a little bit differently than we normally would fight all the bums that he's fought before. That's the game, though. You can't know if your opponent's going to come in as a certain strategy. It reminds me of Srisaket Soringvijay, and he fights Estrada, right? In the first fight, okay, Rungvisai wins that. In the second fight, now Rungvisai is a southpaw, but for whatever reason, when he fought Estrada, he won every round southpaw, and then he switched orthodox, and he lost. And after the fight, they did an interview, and they're like, why the hell, I almost cussed, why the hell would you switch when you're a natural southpaw and the southpaw was giving him problems? And he said, we assumed that they were going to train for southpaw, so we trained orthodox because we didn't know if he's going to come in trained southpaw and negate my strongest attribute. The truth is, during that fight, Srisaket Soringvijay could have won that damn thing if he'd stayed southpaw, which he's always been good at. He lost because he assumed his opponent was going to come in an opposite strategy than what he trained by his normal routine. That's what happened here. Jake Paul trained for what he saw Tommy Fury's normal routine is. He never trained for the what ifs. He never trained for the alternates. He never trained himself. Basically, train yourself, not train for your opponent. Train yourself. Train to adapt your style when needed, when you recognize that what you're doing isn't working. Train to be able to adjust and adapt. And certain fighters are good at this and certain fighters are not. Frank Martin is a really good example of a recent fighter who I think is excellent at being able to adapt his game to what's in front of him. As a result, he makes it look easy because he's adapting himself. He's not really responding to the person across from him. A bad example very recently, of course, is Blair Cobbs, who I'm a fan of in disclosure. But let's be honest, Blair Cobbs, he sticks with his own game plan. And at no point did he adjust when the person across from him adopted a style that was never indicative of him normally. So no, Jake Paul lost. He lost clearly. It was not difficult to score the fight. Jake Paul has stuff to work on. Tommy has stuff to work on. They're at the same level. Jake Paul lost because of strategy, bottom line, but he did not get robbed. He did not win the fight. He lost because of bad strategy. His team, whoever's back now, I know he's got some hard hitters. I don't know why they didn't teach him certain fundamentals that are lacking. I don't know that answer. It's kind of like watching Wilder, except that Wilder, Wilder would not. Wilder certainly skills above these guys, right? But Wilder, at least he learned to adapt ever so slightly when he fought Tyson Fury in the third fight, right? He was jabbing to the body, he was doing a little bit of adjustments, and then he unfortunately went back to muscle memory. It hurts fighters when you can't break away from what's been successful in the past. And that's what we saw here. That's the truth. There was no robbery that I saw. Let me know what you think.